New Zealand's unique. We're a small country, 4.5 million people, but we grow food for about 30 million people. A lot of that food is our horticultural products. And that means we're exporting a lot of these horticultural products. And in fact, 80–90% of our apples and kiwi fruit go offshore. And of course, importing countries want to be assured that the food that we're sending them is free of pests and diseases and free of residues. And those are the two key issues associated with market access. So many countries now are not just concerned with pests and diseases, they're also concerned with other issues such as contaminants associated with E. coli, salmonella, these pathogens, and also other toxins such as aflatoxins. And more and more countries are asking for assurances, certification, in fact, that our fruit and vegetables don't contain these pests and diseases or other contaminants. The other issues associated with market access are residues, because to control pests and diseases, more often than not, growers, farmers rely upon crop protection products such as insecticides and fungicides. But it's important that we do not excessively use these, and in fact that we don't have residues. Ideally, we don't send our produce offshore with residues. And so governments have standards in place, and we must meet those standards when we export our products offshore. But more and more, particularly in Europe, supermarkets are setting their own standards, these private standards, and in fact 200 or so private standards now exist in Europe. So New Zealand's sectors have risen to the challenge here to control pests and diseases effectively and at the same time comply with not just government standards but also supermarket standards in these markets. So if New Zealand sectors do not comply with these market access requirements of phytosanitary issues, markets can simply close down. And each year, in fact, we're threatened with closure of our apples into Taiwan. A single codling moth fine is enough to raise a flag with Taiwan, and in fact 3 fines and you're out of the market completely, shut down. So that would be a significant issue for pip fruit growers in New Zealand. The areas of research that plant and food are involved in with sectors is determining how to achieve optimum pest control, optimum disease control with minimum amount of crop protection product. And to do that, we're researching areas such as biological control, introducing predators into the systems so they can control the pest insects, and we've been very successful at doing that with predator wasps and predator mites, etc., into all manner of crops. In addition, we have introduced technologies such as pheromones, mating disruption, and these have the effect of disrupting entire insect populations, lowering the pest pressure so that less agricultural chemical is used, less insecticide is required, and therefore lowering the amount of residue. We're also working with sectors to understand how best to use agricultural chemicals. For example, using them early in the season and relying on biological control or other technologies later in the season. And in addition, we're working with growers and industry to understand better agronomic and cultural practices. So, for example, removing leaves around vineyards to reduce the amount of botrytis pressure, airflow through the vines, is just a very simple, practical way that growers have been able to achieve a goal of using less fungicide and therefore less potential crop residue. So by using a combination of biological control agents, cultural practices, more prudent use of agricultural chemicals, we can lower the pest and disease pressure on our orchards, on our market gardens. We can have less pest and disease present on our produce when we send it offshore, and we can end up with the ultimate goal of having lower chemical residues and achieving better market access for New Zealand's fruit produce.